The government of Colombia and the National Liberation Army approved a protocol for the implementation of the bilateral ceasefire, including a monitoring and verification mechanism for compliance. In South Korea, heavy rains have left at least 22 deaths, 40 missing, and thousands evacuated, according to authorities. The Russian government condemned the attack against journalist Margarita Simonian, director of the international television network Russia Today. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Alena Plazabal from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. With the news, the government of Colombia and the National Liberation Army approved a protocol for the implementation of the bilateral ceasefire, including a monitoring and verification mechanism for compliance. The announcement of the implementation of the protocols was made on Sunday through a communique released by the ELN delegation. The details of the protocol established the condition for the fulfillment of bilateral ceasefire with an initial duration of 180 days, starting on August 3rd of this year. Among the points agreed upon the peace delegation, it was stated that the fourth round of the peace talks will coincide with the ceasefire and will take place in the city of Bogota. And it was also agreed that to the implement of mechanism to monitor the ceasefire, the role of the church and the social watcher and humanitarian aid. With climate change causing heavy rains and rising sea levels, many of Brazil's cities are struggling to adapt. In Recife, correspondent Brian Muir has more details.
Rainy season is underway again in northeastern Brazil, and in low-lying coastal cities like Recife, this means that entire neighborhoods are suffering from flooding, a phenomenon which is being exacerbated by climate change.
The water came from the canal up through our plumbing because our house is low. It rose and ruined a lot of things, like my sofa and my TV. It ruined everything. The government said they were going to visit our house to verify that the water had come in, but no one ever showed up.
According to the UN, Recife is the world's 16th most vulnerable city to climate change. With over 100 rivers and canals, around 30% of the city lies at sea level, with the remaining 70% on hillsides, creating an amphitheater effect that channels rainwater into the lowland. High tides push seawater into the rivers and canals, causing them to frequently overflow during heavy rains.
A heavy flood hit my house, 1 meter of water, and since the house is low, we had to move out. I'm still living in the chapel.
In April, Recife's city government received a $260 million loan from the Inter-American Development Bank to relocate residents out of vulnerable areas. But its primary focus so far seems to be working in hillside favelas to prevent deadly landslides.
The floods are happening more frequently and more quickly. The rivers start to overflow much faster. We know that there are 54 neighborhoods where people are living on riverbanks. These are vulnerable populations due to a very strong process of social inequality. This makes it harder to respond to disasters.
Brian Muir, TeleSUR, Recife.
The authorities of the municipality of Chongqing in China reported that more than 9,700 residents were evacuated following heavy rains that intensified on Thursday. The storm lashed 41 towns and neighborhoods in Chongqing, with a record maximum daily rainfall of 227 millimeters recorded in Wanzhou district, according to the local weather service. The District Emergency Management Office said that more than 300 hectares of crops were affected by the rains and dozens of houses were damaged or collapsed. Incidents such as landslides and floods in small and medium-sized rivers were reported in the midst of the current storms, with no fatalities reported yet. Heavy rains in South Korea have left at least 22 people and 14 missing and thousands evacuated, according to authorities. The third day of rain has caused mudslides, floodings, and the overflowing of a dam in North Chungcheon province. The Ministry of Interior and Security reported that as of 6 p.m. local time, 4,700 people had been evacuated. Nationwide, provincial authorities said the evacuation orders include more than 7,000 people. And the Korean Meteorological Administration forecast more heavy rain on the peninsula on Sunday. Korea Railroad Corp said it will stop all the stalled rains and some bullet trains, and it clarified that some bullet trains might be delayed due to the slow operations because of landslides, trap flooding, and falling rocks. In a meeting with government agency, Prime Minister Han Duck-soo called on the military to actively join rescue efforts, working with officials to mobilize equipment and workforce. Low-lying areas in India's capital, New Delhi, remain flooded on Saturday, despite the river Yamuna water levels steadily starting to recede. The water level of the Yamuna River flowing through the Indian capital topped a 40-year record, exceeding 207 meters, or about 680 feet on Wednesday evening. Schools and colleges were closed after record monsoon rains led to the massive waterlogging, caved-in roads, collapsing homes, and gridlock traffic in large parts of northern India, killing more than 100 people within 2 weeks. The monsoon season between June and September brings most of South Asia's annual rainfall. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you find news in different formats, new dates, and more. All the studies coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. In the United Kingdom, junior doctors have walked off the job to take part in a 5-day strike for a pay rise. Health professionals are continuing the protest, which began on Thursday, 13 July, for the third day in a row, demanding better pay. UK-based doctors complain that their purchasing power has been eroded over the past 15 years due to the inflation in the country. The health worker representative claimed that the salary should increase by up to 35%, and have rejected the government's proposed 5% pay rise. The government, for its part, says that the health workers' demands are irrational and that the strike is putting patient safety at risk. In Italy, airline workers and some pilots go on strike to express their dissatisfaction and the renewal of their collective agreements. The strike called by the air transport unions began at 10 a.m. and will last until 6 p.m. local time. The mobilized workers are demanding the renewal of their collective agreement, which expired 6 years ago. According to local media reports, hundreds of flights have been cancelled as a result of the strikes, and most of them domestic and some with European destinations such as Madrid, Amsterdam, and Barcelona, averting more than 250,000 travelers. Workers at Watkins Airport, London's second busiest airport, announced a strike from Friday, July 28th to Tuesday, August 1st, and another from Friday, August 4th to Tuesday, August 8th. On the second day of official visit to Portugal, Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel hosts meetings with groups of Cubans living in the country. In the framework of these meetings, Díaz-Canel talked about the country's current situation, marked by the tightening of the U.S. blockade and the effects of the pandemic. For their part, the Cubans living in Portugal spoke about their experiences, like projects and their link with the island, as well as their desire to support the development of their homeland. Before the meeting, the head of state visited the Museum of Aljuve, a space for resistance and freedom, together with representatives of the Portuguese Communist Party. This place is a monument to those who fought against Antonio Salazar's dictatorship. The official visit of the Cuban president began on Friday, July 14th, with a meeting with his Portuguese counterpart, Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, in order to strengthen cooperation between the two countries. During the meeting, the president acknowledged the good state of bilateral relations and reiterated the rejection of the illegal U.S. blockade against Cuba. The Portuguese president affirmed that the interest in the future with Cuba comprises strengthening relations and bilateral cooperation in strategic sectors such as culture, economy, and diplomacy. For his part, Diaz-Canel thanked the Lusitanian authorities and stressed that his visit is part of the context of the European Union's SALAD summit to be held on July 17th and 18th in Brussels, Belgium. On Saturday, Azerbaijan accused Armenian separatists in the Nagorno-Karabakh region of using radio interference against a passenger aircraft. Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev and Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan are set to meet on Saturday in Brussels for a round of talks aimed at resolving the conflict for the control of Armenian populated Karabakh. European Council President Charles Michel will mediate the discussion, which comes amid renewed tension after Azerbaijan closed the Lashin corridor, the only land linked between Karabakh and Armenia. On Friday, some 6,000 people rallied in Karabakh to demand the reopening of this corridor. More than 90 people were arrested on Friday during the celebrations on the French National Day. According to the French Minister of the Interior, during the popular festivity concerts and fireworks aimed at celebrating the French ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity, there were clashes between the demonstrators and almost 45,000 police officers who were deployed by the government in the streets. The ministers detailed that a total of 255 vehicles were set on fire and 96 people were arrested in the courses of the clashes. France celebrated on Friday the national holiday of Bastille Day, a celebration that marks the beginning of French Revolution on July 14, 1789. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at TeleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top studies, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. The Russian government condemned the attack against journalist Margarita Simonian, the director of the international television network Russia Today. In declaration to the press on Saturday, the spokeswoman for the Russian Foreign Minister, Maria Zakharova, announced that the assassination attempt against Simonian and the Russian journalist Ksenia Sochbak provide further proof of the fact that Volodymyr Zelensky's regime in Ukraine is a terrorist organization. She also recorded a whole series of Ukrainian attacks, including those against several Russian public figures. Zakharova explained that this was not the first assassination attempt against Simonian, since her professional activities grant her systematic death threats. The U.S. acknowledged that the Ukrainian counteroffensive did not achieve any of its original objectives. On the contrary, it has suffered heavy losses. In his statements to the press, the commander of the U.S. Joint Operations Chief of Staff, Douglas Arthur Sims, said that the Kiev offensive was not as successful as expected, while the Russian armed forces have shown competence beyond their expectations. The official argued that the Ukrainian army is experiencing various problems during the counteroffensive, and this is the reason why they are not advancing in line with expectations. For his part, Kiev argued that the situation was due to a shortage of weapons, even though it wasn't supposed to have been supplying increasingly heavy weapons, including tanks, drones, and fighter jets. Its stock of grains and pulses in Russia's agricultural organizations experienced an annual increase of 58.4% by the end of June 2023, until 13.18 million tons approximately. According to the country's statistics service, stocks of wheat had an annual increase of 74%, which translates into about 7.45 million tons by the end of June, and of grain corn increased by 8.1% up until 1.16 million tons. Meanwhile, stocks of oil seeds and fruit also increased. Russian authorities claim that grain production increased despite sanctions issued from the West and despite irregularities regarding the Black Sea Grain Agreement. Turkey people commemorate the 7th anniversary of the failed coup orchestrated against the nation in 2016. For Turkey Communications Director Fahrettin Altun, the spirit that prevented the July 15, 2016 coup attempt is a guarantor of Turkey's future. Every year, the nation celebrates the dates as Democracy and National Unity Day, with events held across the country to remember those who lost their lives defeating the coup plotters and remember the nation's bravery. The coup attempt was orchestrated by leaders of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and the United States and left some 252 people dead and almost 3,000 wounded. In the framework of these dates, the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan led an anniversary ceremony while several exhibitions were held in presence and outdoors to the attempted coup. In Zimbabwe, a new terminal at Harare Airport, the busiest airport in the country, was officially inaugurated. Authorities of the African nation and China participated in the inauguration of the project, which consisted of the renovation and expansion of the Robert Gabriel Mugabe International Airport and was carried out with Chinese funds. The terminal is part of a series of projects that constitute an integral strategic partnership between Zimbabwe and China. Among other projects, Beijing has financed the new parliament building, the expansion of Hanger Thermal Power Plant, and the National of Faith through mobile broadband projects. Prime Minister Narendra Modi held talks with the President of the United Arab Emirates, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, to further deepen the multi-phase bilateral ties. Modi received a ceremonial welcome in Abu Dhabi at the Castle Watan, the presidential palace, where he was received by the UAE president with a warm hug. The Indian premier arrived in the capital after his successful visit to Paris, where he joined French President Emmanuel Macron for the Bastille Day parade as a guest of honor and signed several agreements to strengthen bilateral ties. India agreed to initiate trade settlements in their currencies and link India's unified payments interface with the Gulf countries in some payment platform. On Saturday, South Africa deployed the army in 4 of its provinces after at least 21 trucks carrying goods were set on fire in several parts of the country within 5 days. In numerous instances, armed men forced drivers out of their vehicles before setting the trucks alight in the middle of major roads. The burning of trucks seems to have started on Sunday, the second anniversary of the start of the 2021 protests. Police said they had no evidence that this week's torching of trucks was connected to the 2021 unrest or the Zuma, but the decision in Zuma's court case cruelly has put the country on edge. Zuma, 81, was not in South Africa and had traveled to Russia for medical treatment for an undisclosed illness, said Naweli Manji, a spokesperson for the former president. Manji gave no date for Zuma's return. We have come to the end of this brief. You can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Margarita Simonian. Thank you for watching.